Welcome back to Passion Oral Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain. Also, cool your heels with Lillian. Tuesday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern on AMFM247.com. And today our special guest is Chris Hermann, who wrote a book called The Youthful Art of Midlife Travel. So good afternoon, Chris. How are you doing today?
Yes, good afternoon. Good to be with you.
Well, I'm delighted to have you so we can talk about your book. What possessed you to write a book aimed at midlife?
Well, it all started, it all started actually, my wife of 40 years unfortunately passed away, and I suddenly found myself single where I was 40 years ago. And there's a lot of young people that take a year off and travel around the world, and I always thought that was for young people, but I thought, well, what... since I was single again, I wasn't 18 anymore, but I thought I had good health and fitness, so I thought there'd be a good a good challenge and to explore the world. So I took on this backpacking adventure around the world, and had lots of experiences and adventures along the way.
So did you use any of the hostels that are in Europe itself, or did you just try to do it outside on wherever you were parked yourself in your backpack?
No, what I did, hostels is one of my preferable forms of accommodation, and for a couple of reasons. Like, I was travelling for 12 months, and I mean, firstly, someone said to me before, I said, wow, this journey must be costing you a fortune, but it was exactly the opposite. It probably, in fact, it cost me less than if I was living at home. And the thing with hostels is it's budget accommodation, but it's more than that. It's actually a great social hub, and I picked up a lot of my where I went, my planning was done through meeting people at hostels. But I generally stayed in private rooms, very occasionally in a dormitory, but like I said, it was just as a great form of social connections.
Oh, absolutely. I biked my way through Canada when I was 16, and I spent a lot of time using the youth hostels over there. And compared to either camping out or, more importantly, trying to get a hotel room and making expensive that way, it was a very efficient and cheap way to get from city to city.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned at 16, and certainly that's the perception that it's a young people's form of travel. But I beg to differ that it is great for at this stage in life as well, just to rather than hotels where you're locked away, it just gives you that social contact with other people.
Well, it's nice that way. I mean, I met a lot of people who thought, quite frankly, I was crazy at 16 to be doing this, but I enjoyed it. I'd never been to Canada before, and I wanted to experience, and I looked it up, and bikes were mentioned, and I thought, I'll try it. So I did it, and I don't regret it. But when you did your traveling, did you use a lot of buses? Or did you use trains, planes, automobiles, motorcycles?
Well, the main areas I was traveling, I spent the first few months in Spain, and I used trains there. But in Central America, part of South America I was in, as well as Southeast Asia, my preference was buses, and for a couple of reasons. Once again, if you fly over. You don't see it, and the whole purpose of travelling is just to experience things on the ground. And so busing was a great way of doing it. And the second option is that it's comfortable travelling. Like, a lot of the buses between the countries were very modern buses. So once again, it's that way of actually just meeting other travellers, as well as that social interaction with local people as well. And plus, it's a cost-effective way of travelling.
I would think so. I think that it would enable you to see more of the countryside and also communicate with a lot of the natives within that same country or other people who are doing what you're doing. Did you have any trouble getting into various countries, or did your passport from your particular country enable you to go where you wanted to go?
No, I was pretty well free to go. The only places I needed a visa was when I went to Cuba and also Myanmar in Southeast Asia. But I arranged them, a couple of weeks before I went. But other than that, it was fairly free to travel, as a lot of Americans do, particularly around Central America and South America.
Were there certain places that you were not allowed to go? For example, in China, did they keep you in certain places because that's what they wanted you to see, as opposed to letting you roam around and take a good look?
The countries I went on this particular trip, I didn't get a sense of any restrictions. But once again, because I was traveling my own, and just to mention, this is the first time I'd ever travelled on my own, so it was my own sense of adventure there. But I would generally travel where there was other travellers as well, for a sense of, I guess, security. So, like even in Central America, people were advising me, well, don't go further north than Nicaragua, it's too dangerous. But and they weren't travellers; they were some people that advised me that. But when I got there, there was a lot of common tourist routes, if you like, right through Central America. I would have been disappointed if I didn't actually go there, which I did, obviously.
So did you visit any of the ancient ruins of the Mayans or the Aztecs when you were going through Central America?
Oh, certainly. That's I guess one of the features is the many ruins, and so that was a big part of the trip. And same in Southeast Asia, a lot of ruins around Siem Reap as well there.
So when you were going on your travels then, what are some of the, I think, things that you would or you have in your book telling people what they need to do before they just run out the door and decide they're going to go traveling by themselves?
Well, I think one of the biggest difficulties, and I think at this age, is a sense of adventure. And I think as we get older, we tend to get a lot more conservative within our comfort zone. Like before I left, when I was taking on this adventure, I must have come up with 100 reasons why I shouldn't be doing it. I'm going for 12 months. I'm too old, and what if I got sick and all these types of things. And it was really coming face to face with those fears and realising that they're not really issues. They're just fears that we have.
Excuses.
Yeah, that's right. And if I had succumbed to my fears, I really would have missed out on such a great adventure in my life. And I guess another thing, and once again, while I travelled for 12 months, I met a lot of people from North America who would just go down to Central America just for a few months and then go home and do another trip for a month or two. And that's the other bit of advice I would give is don't have a strict itinerary. Like when I did my round the world trip, I just booked 3 continents, just 3 stopovers, and all the rest I had nothing else planned. I just took each day as it came, and that's one of the best advice I think is just leave your itinerary open, and particularly if you travel say off peak season. There's always a good choice of accommodation, and if you like a place, you can stay. If you don't, you can move on. That's
a good tip. Now, in terms of clothing, did you try to go to places that you could have packed the same type of clothing that you needed rather than bounce around from hot to cold?
Are you there? Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me? Chris, are you there? Hello?
Hello?
Chris, can you hear me?
Seem to.
Okay. So when you packed, what kind of tips can you give for people for packing when they go out on a world trip? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we seem to have misplaced Chris. His phone has failed for whatever reason. So we will continue this discussion when he